Hello, everyone. My name's Cash Miller. I'm the host of Emerging Brands Franchises on the Rise. I'm also the CEO of Titan Media Works. We do podcast production. Today, we're going to be talking about mosquitoes. Yeah, it's a bug show today. Yeah, mosquitoes and businesses that focus on killing them have really been on the rise over the last few years. I've got with me Tyler Burnett with Mosquito Joe, which is really an upcoming franchise. It's also owned by Neighborly Brands, which is a big franchise group. So there's a lot of experience behind this brand and really building it up. Tyler, it's great to have you. Tell us about Mosquito Joe. What's the backstory here?
Cash, I appreciate you allowing me to be a part of the podcast here. Really excited to share about Mosquito Joe. Backstory. I think it's a great story. And each brand, of course, has their own story. But I love our brand story. Really, Mosquito Joe was founded by a group of about 4 friends and neighbors in the Virginia Beach, Virginia area in 2010. And the reason that they started the company was because they were having issues with mosquitoes and other pests on their own properties. It was really limiting their quality of life and their ability to enjoy the outdoor space there. And if you've ever been to Virginia Beach, it's a beautiful area. You want to spend as much time outside as you can. And, those pests were really putting a damper on their ability to be able to do so. And so they launched a really great business and they started to grow. And they were really successfully building a small local business, but recognized that there was a lot of potential there for the model to grow further and saw that franchising could be a good avenue for that. And so they started to reach out within the business community there and look for, investors and folks who had more experience on the franchising side of things, connected with an individual who had previously been involved in private equity and franchising. And he loved the concept so much that he said, I absolutely want to be involved in this. And I'm going to not just, do a capital raise and such, but I'm going to help develop the business and begin franchising it. So franchising started in about 2013 and really saw some great growth from 2013 to about 2017. At that point, they saw really the investors were ready for a return on their investment, and they were looking for a new partner to help take them to the next level in their development. And after interviewing with about 14 private equity type organizations, they selected Neighborly as that new partner. It was due to an alignment of values, of course, the great Neighborly systems and benefits that are so unique within the Neighborly family of brands. And so since 2018, Mosquito Joe's been a part of Neighborly and been growing strong ever since.
Well, that's one of the things that really is an advantage in this particular situation, because Neighborly has built up a number of individual brands. So they, as a franchisor, are really experienced in the space, and you get a lot more support. If you buy a Mosquito Joe franchise, you know that the team behind it really knows what they're doing, right?
That's right. And really, that's a key differentiator for us too, Cash. The things that Neighborly can offer are just very unique within franchising. One that comes to mind is our Pro Trade Net vendor network, where essentially we've created a network of over 300 vendors that are providing everything our franchise business owners need to operate their business on a daily basis. But they're also getting the best products, the best pricing, and the best rebates on the market. And that creates an opportunity for them to, really have an advantageous relationship with vendors, because essentially we're able to leverage the size of the entire organization, which now is over 5,500 franchise units globally, on behalf of each individual owner. And so there are advantages that come directly from that association with Neighborly and from being one of the Neighborly family of brands.
So that's one of the things about, having a brand of that size, because a lot of, if you were to buy a mosquito franchise, or, pest control franchise, something like that, if it's all they do, if for that particular franchise, you could have the problem that they don't have that same kind of buying power. And that's really an edge here, right?
Absolutely. And I think you're going to see, as an industry, franchising moving more this direction anyways, where you're going to see conglomerates of brands and brands coming together to really strengthen their overall position in the market. And Neighborly is kind of setting the template for that, have been for years. We're 32 global service brands now, all focused in the home service space. And just there are so many advantages to that, not just the ability to negotiate with vendors, but also the opportunity to cross-market to a shared customer base, which is extremely strong. So all of our services, like I said, focused on home service. So everything we do is about repairing, maintaining, or enhancing the single-family freestanding home. And because of that, we have a shared customer base across all of our brands. And so if we go to open a new Mosquito Joe franchise in a market that we haven't previously had a Mosquito Joe, we still have other brands there that we're able to immediately begin cross-marketing efforts to existing customers. And they already know and trust the Neighborly family of brands.
So let's talk for a second. What does the day in the life of a Mosquito Joe franchise owner look like?
Great question. What we primarily want our owners to focus on is on building and managing the business. We look for folks that have experience in business. They don't need any industry experience. We can provide all the education they need when it comes to that. But we look for team builders. We look for people that are going to be the preferred employer in their area, for people that can mentor and grow and coach a team underneath them to really build and scale and grow a successful business in the area. And we find that that's really the recipe that drives a success for our franchise business owners. So they're going to spend most of their time typically coaching up the team in the morning, getting ready to launch them out on their daily activities, overseeing their customer service representatives who are going to be manning the phones all day, and then do a lot of business development, working with our in-house marketing team to make sure that their business is the premier marketed business in their market. They're going to spend time developing relationships, maybe, utilizing time to attend local business alliance groups or, Rotary events or things like that within the community where they can continue to build a personal presence, because we want everyone to know this is a locally owned business, that when they do business with their Mosquito Joe, they're doing business with a local owner. And so that's really the focus day to day for our business owners, managing the overall operations, building a strong team of employees, coaching them up, and then working on building the business.
So, okay. They spend their time managing and stuff, the thing is when they first get out the gate, often it's just going to be themselves and stuff. So what does like building up the client base look like? Because you say, Mosquito Joe's, there's going to be marketing support, so how do they get their client base built up over time? And then how long does it typically take a franchisee just to get to break even, either based on the amount of time or the number of clients you need? Like how many customers? Like, I don't know which measurement is more suited for, a Mosquito Joe. So which, pick one that, makes the most sense.
Absolutely. Well, customer acquisition in this business is marketing driven. And because of that, because of the strength of being a part of the Neighborly family of brands, we don't expect our franchise business owners to be able to come in and be all things to all people, right? They're going to be busy running and building and growing a business. They can't also be the marketing expert for their local business. And so what we've done is we've built an in-house team of marketing experts, folks that do nothing but focus on search engine optimization or digital content creation or media buying. And they work with each of our individual owners to market their specific business in their protected territory to demographically identified potential customers. That's really key because a lot of times, with franchisors, they'll require a certain marketing spend, but they don't provide a lot of direction or guidance. And with us, essentially what we're saying is, not only are we providing guidance, we're actually providing your own in-house marketing team that you can call at any point. And then we're going to track all of those efforts as well and sit down and meet with you and go, okay, here's your most effective form of marketing over the last several months. Here's the least effective. Here's how we can make adjustments moving forward to continue to build your customer base. And that's really where we've seen success, and one of the reasons that we've seen such rapid growth with Mosquito Joe. Now, as far as break-even point, a lot of that's going to depend on the structure of the business, right? Overhead costs vary depending on whether you're launching, say, from a home base versus if you've got a commercial location. Are you dedicating your full-time effort to building up the business, or are you doing more of a semi-absentee executive management model? Typically, I tell people to expect a year to 2 years. Of course, it can happen faster, and depending on the structure and what you're building for, that it looks different for everyone, right? But I would say, as a general rule of thumb, that's what you're looking at.
Okay, so you mentioned that semi-absentee, so you can go that kind of route. You can be very hands-on as well. What's the investment level for the franchise look like, and does it vary kind of depending on how you want to run the business? Because I've seen some franchises that will have you want to be. Like I say, you mentioned where it's, fully invested, or you have the semi-absentee, they're not going to be building up as fast. So sometimes you'll see different franchise fees kind of depending. I don't know that that's the case with Mosquito Joe. So I say, what's the investment look like? And also I like to ask, what's the breakdown of where that money goes as well? Because you've got equipment, you've got the franchise fees, some people like to include, hey, 6 months worth of operating capital, so people know how the money is, spent.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. Typically for a first year single territory startup, you're looking between about $115,000 and $155,000. Now that's going to include, of course, your franchise agreement fee, which secures your exclusive rights to build a business in that territory. And all of our territories are fully protected, so you're never competing against another Mosquito Joe owner. It's going to include your first year of marketing. It's going to include outfitting a technician. It's going to include, the upfitting and wrapping of a vehicle. Of course, you're going to have lease or purchase expenses associated with that. It's going to include the basic marketing supplies and things that you would need, if outfitting a small office space, et cetera. Insurances, licensing, everything to really get you up off the ground and operating. And it also includes about 3 months of operating expenses, say $15,000 to $30,000, somewhere in that range of just, here's our operating capital as we begin to generate revenue, which is something that happens quickly with this model. Now, long-term, your overhead costs are going to be based upon how you structure the business. So if you are an executive management model operation, you're probably going to be paying a general manager. You're probably going to have a commercial space that you're running the business off of. You're going to have higher overhead costs. If you are, a home-based operator who is serving as that owner / general manager in the beginning, then you're going to have lower overhead costs. As you continue to add service technicians and customer service representatives and such, you'll continue to grow and build the business. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of options for people, and to be able to do this in a way that fits themselves and their lifestyle and their goals. But the costs vary accordingly. There's no additional cost as far as startup is concerned or securing territory. It's just more operational costs depending on what your structure is.
What's the growth potential for a Mosquito Joe? So do you end up with, because you've got, over 200, franchisees right now. Do you have some that end up owning multiple locations? Do they buy out other territories? What, from an ownership standpoint, what is the sky the limit? What can you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most of our owners do own multiple territories. About 67%, and the average is between 2 and 3 territories apiece. Growth potential really is completely dependent upon the business owner's ability to really grow and manage the team to provide service there and provide the premier customer service experience in their area, because our marketing system works really well as far as generating customer interest. And if you go out there and you're the premier service provider in your area, you're going to have loyal customers and be able to retain your customers year over year. Our customer retention is in the mid 70s percentile year over year, which is really, really strong for a model like this. I'll throw out a number there that I can because it's in our latest franchise disclosure document. We measure everything per territory. And I'll tell you that last year, our highest grossing territory, single territory, not single business, did over $1.7 million in revenue. And that's based on our reoccurring revenue model. We're treating every property on about a 21-day reoccurring cycle. And it's a really strong owner who's built a great customer base there. And we've got a lot of owners similar to that, above the $1 million mark and revenue generated for a single territory.
It makes me want to ask the question: how many mosquitoes did you kill for $1.7 million? I mean, billions and billions of mosquitoes. That's a lot of dead mosquitoes for that. That kind of dollar figure. So I want to ask on that front too. Does a Mosquito Joe franchise, do they just kill mosquitoes, or are there other, pest related services? Is it a one thing? We come in and we do this and we just do it really good. Is that the case, or, are there cross sells for other services?
That's probably one of the top two questions I ever get when I talk to people about the concept, Cash. And I'll tell you, our narrow focus is we treat outdoor pest control. We treat completely from the exterior of the home. However, it's not just mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, ticks, fleas. If you're in the Northeast, we're treating for spotted lanternflies. If you're in the Southeast, no-see-ums. In the Southwest, scorpions. Our goal and purpose is bringing health and happiness to families and their pets, and we do that by ridding their property and their homes of these pests. And we create a barrier essentially around their property, around their home, and a lot of times we end up eliminating the need for a traditional extermination service that would usually go inside the home and go from room to room, which people don't really like to have that done. They're not comfortable with those treatments being sprayed inside the home, and we can do it all from the exterior of the home. So our narrow focus is on everything from the exterior on the property, but we're actually able to control a multitude of different pests depending on the region that you're at. And we're also able to keep those pests out of the home.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good. That's, it helps with, because the recurring revenue model is extremely important. You want to have that, for a growing business, and then having some cross services, because really it's Mosquito Joe. It's about, treating the outside. I know we do we have our house treated, the yard and everything, because we've got, pets and they bring stuff. Just last night I had to pull a tick off my dog, and it's like, and it's very rare that happens, but it's because we get, the treatment. And that's the thing. Homeowners always need those kinds of treatments. They're, usually like really affordable. Let me ask, so what's a typical service cost? Just an average, if you go into the house and you say, okay, it's this much, per month from a subscription standpoint, because then it's kind of like people can kind of do the math and say, well, if my average treatment's this, then I need this many customers to, be able to really build something up that's, sustainable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will tell you, we differ a little bit from some other models in that we're not really a one-size-fits-all subscription type treatment. We don't use contracts. We really focus on a custom approach for each property. Now, that said, average cost per treatment across the U.S. last year was just under $85. But that's going to vary depending upon what part of the country you're in and what type of treatments you're providing. Because for us, it's so much more than just the traditional barrier sprays. We have a lot of cooperative relationships with providers of particular products that we use. We're able to treat an entire property utilizing all natural methods as needed. Of course, we can still utilize traditional synthetic pesticides too, but a major focus is our collaboration and cooperation with the Pesticide Environmental Stewardship Program, which is a part of the Environmental Protection Agency. And our goal is to protect pollinators like bees and butterflies, and to continue to develop and utilize all natural treatments in place of some of those more traditional synthetic pesticides, because we think it's better overall for our shared ecology to accomplish both of those things. And so we're custom treatments, depending on where you're located at, what your property looks like, we're going to provide different types of treatments. And so pricing can really vary, but that average last year was just under $85.
I think that partnership is really important, especially, because you mentioned bees and pollinators and stuff, because I know that pesticides as a whole have devastated, a lot of those, that ecosystem. While we don't want bugs in our yard, we still need bugs. They are part of the overall wellness of the planet. So I love that aspect of what you're doing. I think that's really important. And also, I mean, a lot of people have heard the horror stories of pesticides, over the years, and certain like cancerous side effects, that they've caused, because it's not, they say the things that were used in the past that aren't necessarily being used now, but it's still out there as a perception. I guess, that the possibility exists that people are using it, but you're not, which is good. And you're furthering development of, more sustainable ways of doing things that still get the job done.
Absolutely. You couldn't be more right, Cash. There is a perception out there, and the big part of what we do is try to educate not only our customer base, but the public in general. We have two of the absolute best entomologists in the industry that are on staff with us at our corporate office, and they're constantly working with the PESP, and they're working with local beekeeping organizations and zoos, and then also working to help when it comes to legislative issues and educating local lawmakers and such in all the areas that we're located at. This is so important to us, and it's so key to the continued success of this industry for us to not only be responsible with how we approach it. We want to do the greatest good with the least amount of collateral damage, but also to educate people that there are options available to them where they can feel good about the service they're having performed at their home. And so for us, it's a major focus. Any treatment we utilize is listed by the EPA. And like I said, we're constantly pushing for more natural treatment methods and such.
I think with the today's consumer, that's, because we know it's become more prevalent, in people's minds, that they want the companies that they hire, to provide services for them, they want to know. So from a business standpoint, it also makes a lot of sense, because it is speaking to a huge, audience that want to know the companies that they hire are doing these things. So I think I applaud you guys for that, because it's like, it really is necessary. It makes good business sense. It's good for the environment. It's a win for the franchisees by doing that. And of course, for, the franchisor as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a greater responsibility than just to ourselves or even just to our owners. Our responsibility is to our ecology and our environment and the population as a whole. And that's something that we don't just recognize, but we embrace. And we're always striving to be out there on the leading edge of making sure that we are, providing viable treatment options in a way that is also suitable for the planet.
What does, so if a franchisee, a new one, comes on board, what does the training and support side look like to get them up and running? And also from an ongoing perspective, as they potentially hire additional employees and stuff to, provide this service to people, what support is Mosquito Joe, the franchisor, giving them?
That's so important for a new franchise business owner. The fact is, most owners that come in, they typically don't have any industry experience, not just with Mosquito Joe, but a lot of times with any other franchise concept that they may have decided to become a part of. And so if a franchisor doesn't have a really robust, well thought out, well planned training program, it's really to the detriment of everyone involved. And so with Mosquito Joe, we start immediately with what's called the Sure Start process. Now, all of our franchise business owners are going to have a dedicated franchise business coach that's going to work with them from day one of their franchise ownership all the way through until their journey is over. And the Sure Start process makes sure all the boxes are checked and everything's been done to ensure that they're ready to launch their business when the time is right. They're going to, as part of that process, they're going to complete both a virtual phase of training and then an in-person phase of training that's at our corporate headquarters there in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Sorry, we're talking about bugs and I've got a fly flying around my face. So and they're going to have an in-person training and then ongoing training, whether it's through our ongoing training portal, which they can utilize to assign training to their employees, whether it's a service technician or a customer service representative or whatever position they might hold in the business. And then, constant ongoing training opportunities, not just from the corporate side of things, but also from their fellow owners, and facilitating meetings between everyone, whether we're talking about marketing or we're talking about product or technical application, or we're talking about tax credits, whatever that is, we want to always provide very robust training. And so we've been able to do that and build out a really successful system with Mosquito Joe.
Well, that's great because like I said, the amount of support that any franchise, gives is it's huge. And depending on the franchise, and this goes back to why it's an advantage to have a neighborly franchise, because if you go back, because there's other mosquito franchises out there, but like I say, they don't necessarily have that same kind of structure and really robust resources that Mosquito Joe's has, because they can tap the bigger, parent company essentially. So you've got a real edge there, I think, which means the franchisees have an edge too, if you buy into this concept.
You're exactly right. And with Neighborly, our goal has always been to help our franchise business owners utilize their franchise business as the vehicle to accomplish their dreams and goals. And so training isn't simply limited to even necessarily the concept that they're an owner with. We've got financial training, we've got investment training, we've got personal improvement training, all available to our franchise business owners, no matter which one of our brands they're a part of, because we know that what we're trying to build is so much bigger than any single brand or any single individual business. What we're building is a framework for people to accomplish their dreams and goals and create the life and lifestyle for themselves that they deeply desire and that they're willing to work hard for. And so we want to equip them to do that.
Well, I think that's great. That's a perfect note to end this episode on. Tyler, how, if people want to get a hold of you to inquire about a Mosquito Joe franchise, how are they going to do that?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. You can feel free to give me a call at any time. My direct line is 469-722-4060. You can also send me a text. My email address, tyler.burnett@nbly.com. So that's tyler.burnett@nbly, as in neighborly.com. You can reach me there. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with you in any way that's convenient. And use all different forms of communication and media, whatever you're comfortable with. Also, we've got some great websites. If you go onto the Neighborly site, you can find Mosquito Joe information. You can find information on all of our other brands as well. Reach out to us via that stream. You can find a lot of other info on brands that might be available in your area. But I'm always happy to talk with anybody and help get you pointed in the right direction, whether that might be Mosquito Joe or otherwise.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today, Tyler. If you're looking for a franchise and you want to get into the pest control area, as an example, Mosquito Joe is really a good franchise for this. You get the backing of a much larger company. I think that's a really important thing. And there's a lot of really good growth and opportunity, because as a business owner, you do want to know that you can get beyond potentially, just a single franchise. And you can do that in a couple of ways, with Neighborly. So I think that's a really good aspect. Either it's owning multiple, Mosquito Joe territories, or even crossing over to one of the other brands. And that makes for a different dynamic than some other franchises, might offer. So if you're looking at killing mosquitoes and a few other, ticks and, fleas and such, check out Mosquito Joe's. My name's Cash Miller. I'm the host of Emerging Brands, Franchises on the Rise, CEO of Titan Media Works podcast production. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you on the next episode.